Could not he who opened the eyes of a blind man have kept this man from dying? It's a powerful verse. I have to say, it's a verse I misused when I was young. I don't want to change the whole mood here, but do you remember when you were at camp? Did you ever go to church camp? Remember you were when you were in Sunday school and you had to memorize a verse? Guess which one I chose to memorize? John 11:35. Jesus wept. Boy, why did I choose that one?
You can remember that.
Because there's only 2 words, right? I could remember that. And I completely missed the whole significance of why the people who put those little numbers in there. You ever wonder who put those little numbers in there? That didn't happen until like 1,200 years after it was written. Okay, you don't have to worry about that, but those aren't inspired numbers. But those people actually made this one little 2-word sentence a verse, because if you think about it, it's a very powerful thing. Jesus wept. Now, intellectually, that's kind of weird, because he knows he's going to raise Lazarus from the dead, right? I mean, he knows. He set out to say, I'm going to go raise Lazarus from the dead. Just for your faith, he told the disciples that. Remember we talked about that last week? He knew it was going to happen. But he was moved. He was troubled. And when he saw somebody he cared about in pain, he wept. He wept. Now, this goes so against so many people's mental picture of Jesus. They think that he was always standing there looking serene. He never lost control. You know when you're really out of control? When you weep. When this emotion overruns you and you just can't stop. What's this tell you about your God? And you have a God that weeps. And you have a God that weeps. And you have a God that laughs. Do you know that? Yeah. You have a God that understands all those emotions. You have a God that's experienced all those emotions. And even though on an intellectual basis he knew what he was going to do, he knew what was going to happen and where it was going to go, he felt. He felt. Jesus was a spiritual person, wasn't he? Feeling is a spiritual thing, isn't it? Remember the love, joy, peace, patience, all those feelings? Compassion. Same feeling. He saw Mary and said, wow, she's her man. Show me where he's buried. And he broke down. And he wept. And the people around him went, wow. And maybe this gives you a clue as far as whether they were really feeling that way or not. Because they were impressed with how Jesus loved Lazarus and Mary and Martha. Maybe they didn't love him that way. Maybe they hadn't had that genuine weeping. I don't know. But they were taken with it. See how he, and the word is phileo, that brotherly love. See how he emotionally cared for them. And then, boom. Others said, wait a minute. Yeah, he really cared. Couldn't the guy that opened the eyes of the blind, couldn't he have done something? Couldn't he have stopped this somehow? Couldn't he have avoided all of this pain? Couldn't he have... Well, he could have, couldn't he? He intentionally decided not to, didn't he? for the sake of their faith. He knew what he was going to do, and next week we're going to talk about how he would bring Lazarus out of that tomb. But right now, we need to be impressed with Jesus' feeling. Feeling for Lazarus, feeling for Mary, feeling for Martha. All right. I think what we really need is to be impressed with Jesus' feeling for Gary. Yeah. For feeling with Jackie, and Jesse, Randy. That's what we need to really be impressed with. That he feels. It's not some detached thing. He feels. Can't he take your pain away? Don't we wish? Don't we wish that we had somebody that would take away that nobody in our family would ever die? That nobody in our family, nobody that we love, nobody we're close to would lose their job or lose their eyesight or lose use of their limbs. That somebody that we cared about would never go through a divorce or lose a child. Don't we wish that that was what our Savior promised us? But he never promised us that, did he? We're all going to die. And the people we love are going to die. You will experience pain and grief. And you will experience pain and grief for people that you love, that you're not even directly related to, but you will experience that. The thing to know is that God knows what that feels like. He knows, and He cares, and He feels it too. The people that mourned for Lazarus, it was an emotionally draining thing, and it was emotionally draining on Jesus. And guess what? God's going to bring Lazarus back from the dead. But then those people are going to have to go through it again, because Lazarus is going to die again. You will experience pain. You cannot live life trying to escape pain. And you cannot live life thinking that God doesn't understand your pain and that His promise is to take it away from you. If you do, you will do nothing but accuse Him over and over and over of not caring. If you really cared, God, I wouldn't hurt. If you really cared, God, my relationships would always work. If you really cared, my children would always be employed. And I would always be employed. If you really cared, God, did God ever promise any of those things? Have you ever accused God of not caring because you were in pain? Have you? I have. I'm in pain, therefore God doesn't love me. Boy, what a messed up equation that is. That is so messed up. And you know what? You've forgotten to memorize the shortest verse in the Bible. You should have done that. John 11:35, Jesus wept. God hurts. And God laughs. And God has joy. And God has concern. And God is your God. And He's not attached. He's not way off someplace looking at you through a microscope going, that's an interesting reaction to that. You know, let's throw this in and see how they react to that. That's interesting too. That's not your God. All right. Mary and Martha and Lazarus. The people that Jesus loved.